Hey there. All right. Well, something I want to talk about today, as far as small business owners, when they're leasing commercial space, a thing that comes up very commonly that I've seen, anyways, is they're confused about the triple net when they're leasing commercial space. We call it a triple net lease, or they'll see that in the lease, but it wasn't advertised in the listing, and they're just really confused about it. And they don't know what it means, and a lot of them think it's almost like a scheme or a scam or something unfair. The greedy landlords are just trying to pull over on them. And so just kind of a quick explanation on that, kind of explain that a bit more, give you a behind the scenes look of what it actually is, how it works, and then just give you some key takeaways that you can use when it comes to, if you're a small business owner trying to lease a space, and maybe you can use that when you're negotiating with a landlord. So first off, what is triple net? Triple net, it's also called NNN, or net. And you'll see that's how you'll see it in the listing, is just NNN. And each of those nets technically stand for the operating expenses of the property. Sorry, don't mind that blown down garage door there. We had some crazy wind here a few days back. We're still working on fixing that. Anyways, so those three nets, the first is property taxes of that property. The second is the insurance, specifically the property insurance of the building. And the third net is the common area maintenance. So those three items together are what the triple net is composed of. And so I guess trying to explain it to, as a small business owner, I assume yourself, think of this as the operating expenses or the overhead, or, the cost of doing business for that landlord. So think of, whatever, this property I'm at right here, this industrial complex. Think of it as a business. To the landlord, it is a business. And with that, they have operating expenses in order to run that business. And so that's what the property taxes, the property insurance, and the common area maintenance is. It's their operating expenses. And so what triple net is trying to do, triple net is a landlord trying to charge a portion of the rent specific to those operating expenses. So the other option, the other way you'll see a lease proposed, is as a gross lease, a gross rent versus triple net. And gross would just mean the landlord is charging you just a set rent per month. They're not doing a triple net or anything. But in that gross rent, you can assume they're trying to bake in those operating expenses still, because they still have them. So they're just trying to guess what they will be and trying to cover them with that gross rent. So anyways, by doing a triple net lease, the landlord's breaking it down. First, they'll charge you a base rent, and they charge triple net. And the triple net is essentially a summary of those operating expenses, but it's a proportionate share. So if you're in a multi-tenant property like this one, let's say you're occupying 25% of the space, but you are then charged back for 25% of those operating expenses. So let's say the property taxes are $10,000 a year. You'll pay 25% of that, $2,500, divided by each month. So each month you're paying whatever that is. Quick math, not doing my head right now, 300-ish a month. And then obviously I'll be more commonly described as the price per square foot. So it gets broken down from there, but you're paying your portion of each of those property expenses. And the reason a landlord wants to do this is because then they know they're covered. So their operating expenses are covered each year. Because with commercial leases, it's not like you're renting an apartment. Usually they're going to be longer than 1 year. So if it's a 3-year or a 5-year or a 10-year lease, what if the landlord's taxes go up, out of their control? What if insurance goes up, which it has been? What if there's a few years with a ton of snow and their snow removal costs just go through the roof and they're not covered by that? And if they've done a gross lease and their rent's just set for the whole time, they could be negative, or negative cash flow in the red, for those years. But with a triple net, what it does is each year it'll adjust to essentially what last year was. This can be done monthly as well, but more commonly it's just done per year. So your triple net for the year you're leasing is usually based on the expenses of last year. That's at least an easy way to do it. And then let's say at the end of the year, let's say that there was a bunch of snow and the snow removal costs were a lot higher. The landlord will reconcile those operating expenses, that triple net, at the end of the year, and then adjust accordingly. And also usually there will be a reconciliation payment that you as a tenant either pay or they refund you. So, if there's your portion of the extra snow removal was $200 at the end of the year, you pay the landlord $200 to make up for that. Or maybe they overcharged you and they didn't use all that money, they give you a refund of that amount. So that's how it should be done. And that's the other big thing to understand with the triple net leases is if they're doing them right, the landlord needs to provide you a report, an accounting of each of those items. So at the end of the year, you can see, oh, they actually did pay these expenses. This is what the property taxes were. This is what the insurance was. These were all the common area maintenance fees. It's legitimate. Because that's the big complaint the tenants have is, well, I don't know what all they're including those expenses, or, they're overcharging me. Well, at the end of the year, make sure you ask for that report, that reconciliation that the landlord is supposed to give you. It should be written in each lease that they will give you an accounting of those expenses. So that's kind of how that works as it adjusts year after year and accordingly. And so each year, that's something planned is with a gross lease, your rent will be set for 5 years. Maybe there's some escalation, so it bumps up, but you know exactly what it'll be. With a triple net lease, the kind of downside to you as a tenant is you don't know exactly what your rent will be the next year, the next year, the next year. It's not going to go up drastically. You'll have a good guess, but you won't know exactly. So that is the downside to you as a tenant, is you don't know that for sure. So that's a common complaint, but it's just a better way of doing business for the landlord. And as long as they're reconciling it and showing you the proof of those expenses, it's not meant to be a bad thing or a negative thing or unfair. And so when you're looking at those leases, you don't really negotiate. Here's another thing. You don't really negotiate on the triple net. So, maybe it's $10 a square foot base plus a $2 a square foot triple net. If you're going to negotiate with the landlord, you don't really want to go and say, hey, I only want to pay half of your taxes. I'm not going to pay you all the triple net, I'll pay you half. You don't really do that. You really shouldn't. What you want to negotiate on is the base rent. So maybe instead you say, hey, I'll pay you $9 a square foot base, and then I'll pay you triple net. Don't say I'll pay you 11 of your 12. So that's something to know about and not make you look inexperienced as a tenant. So negotiate the base rent, don't negotiate the triple net. Now what you do want to do, not really negotiate, but make sure you really understand, what expenses are included in that triple net. So in the lease, there should be a section saying what items are included in the triple net, what you're going to be paying for and what you don't. So it'll list the usual things, property tax, property insurance. But what you really want to check is what all is included in the common area maintenance. Usual things would be landscaping and snow removal. Those are very basic items. They'll definitely be in there. Another thing, common area, technically, let's say it's an office building and there's a shared lobby and a shared restroom, for all the suites. That's a common area. Maybe they're paying for cleaning or utilities of that common area. That would be a very common thing to be split out in a triple net. Another thing you sometimes see are property management expenses. If there's a property manager, that could be included in the triple net. Not always, probably 50-50, but that could be in there. What you don't want to see are structural items. So things like the roof, things like water and sewer lines, maybe an HVAC system, or like parking lots, entirely replacing parking lots. You might see striping or like resurfacing of parking lots, but not replacing a whole thing. Things like that, you don't want to see that in the triple net, because that will drastically increase. If the landlord has to replace a roof, that's going to skyrocket your triple net. And what they should be doing is kind of setting money aside each year to pay for that. Side topic anyways. But so you're not really negotiating that, but make sure you read the lease and understand what all the landlord's trying to include, and maybe come back at that a little bit and clarify, like, hey, well, is this included? Is this included? So that's something to do. Don't really negotiate, but at least clarify. I guess those are kind of the main things I had. So key takeaways there is make sure you know the property you're looking at. Is it a gross lease or triple net lease? So just know the difference between those. Gross is all in one. Triple net, you'll see base and triple net. So just get those. Number two, you negotiate on that base rent, not on the triple net. So try and negotiate the landlord down the base and just kind of understand what the triple net is. And that is number three, is make sure you fully understand what all is included in that triple net, so you aren't surprised or you receive surprise expenses later in the lease. That's what I got. If you know anyone, by the way, who needs some shop space in Western South Dakota, let me know. I got a bunch here. But yeah, there's kind of a quick rundown on triple net and how it works for commercial leasing for a small business owner. Thanks for watching.